Mark Rogers TV talking some bowl participation with Bill King, who's all over Twitter and all over college football. Check him out at Bill is King, and you can lock in on all of his content available to you there. So, Bill, it was great to track you down here. Thanks for jumping on board.
Mark, this is pretty cool, man. It was like I was telling you, I've never participated in this forum before, so this will be fun, man. I appreciate the invite.
No problem. Let's man, we're right in the middle of it here. 40 bowl games. Is that too many? You got these 5 and 7 teams participating this year in Nebraska, Minnesota. Too many bowl games, or can't be enough bowl games? What do you think?
Anybody that knows me knows I'm opinionated, and to do this job, your job, my job, you better be opinionated. I don't really care. I never bought into the why would a team get an invite if they're 5 and 7 or 6 and 6? Because you know what I do? I don't watch it if I'm not interested. It's that simple, and it's a business. Obviously, folks, ESPN, the networks are making money on this. So some of them I will not pay attention to as much as others. If I find it boring, I'll probably sleep through a little bit of it. But if they have 50, I could care less.
You know, it's funny, Bill, because my day job's at ESPN, work production operations management, and people complain about all the bowl games. And it's funny because even the worst and lowest tier bowl games blow away college basketball ratings. You throw out the biggest college basketball game of the year, and people are watching bowl games, even the lower tier bowl games, more than those games.
Well, I absolutely believe your data. You would know, and because I started in this business doing talk radio on the local level in the late 80s, so I'm pushing 30 years. And back then, college basketball and college football in general as a topic was close to 50-50 in popularity. Since then, it's been a rout with college football as opposed to college basketball when it comes to popularity. I like to harken back to Secretariat at the Belmont back in 1973 when you look back and there's no closest competitor. That's college football and college basketball. So that data you threw out, which again you would know, you're there, I absolutely subscribe to. I believe it.
Well, you just don't get to see a Christian Laettner or Grant Hill or the like stick around for 4 years and play college basketball. It just doesn't happen anymore. Right. So we don't get attached to those teams and those players. So looking at the bowl games, everybody's pretty much locked in on the college football playoff for. Besides that, what games are jumping out at you?
Well, let's immediately go to Saturday. We've got 5 games, the first 5 on Saturday, and that would be the Las Vegas Bowl where you have the Holy War. And I try to explain to people, I've done a lot of work and talked to people and covered it. BYU is every bit as hateful as Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, the old backyard brawl of Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Louisville, Kentucky in basketball. I could go on and on. It doesn't get the notoriety. It might not have the number of fans that follow it like Alabama, Auburn, Michigan, Ohio State, but it is dreadful hate. A lot of it's about, the Mormons versus the heathens and whatever else you can make up concerning those two schools. But it's also an interest because it's the first day of all the bowl games, and it's also a situation where you've got Bronco Mendenhall leaving for Virginia, and is this BYU team going to play hard for him, sending him out because he is staying on to coach, even though he's heading to Virginia, or are they ticked off and, won't play hard for him? I'm thinking they will play hard because they hate Utah with all their might. The other thing is BYU's playing in Sin City. The Holy War is in Sin City. Utah's ticked off because they don't want to be there. It's a crappy bowl compared to what they thought they were getting out of the season that they had in the Pac-12. That one's interesting. And then let me just fast forward to the Russell Athletic when you're talking about North Carolina and Baylor. Oh, my gosh. What's the over and under on that? 10 billion? You would think there's going to be a lot of scoring, although the quarterback situation at Baylor is interesting. So you have to factor that in. But those are a couple. Obviously, Fiesta Bowl. I mean, I can go on and on. Notre Dame and Ohio State takes me back to that game where they kept showing Brady Quinn's sister more than they actually showed the ball game because she was dating AJ Hawk. There's so many memories I have of these ball games, but those are a couple.
Yeah, Baylor's quarterback situation compromised. I don't know. Their scoring and yardage totals have been way down, and Corey Coleman can't get the football with a third-string quarterback. That was the case in the last few games of the season. So that's going to be difficult for them. And you are completely right, Bill, when it comes to the Holy War. I'm a kid that grew up in the Midwest.
Right.
I covered the SEC. I was in the South for 6 years, covering the SEC and right in the middle of it. So I know Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama. And if you travel across the country, those are the first two rivalries anybody spits out. But when you talk about intensity and hatred, that Holy War is serious business.
It is. And I, a few years ago, made a point to do a lot of research on that just for myself and then my show, because I was doing the show on Sirius XM for 10 years there. And I tell you, the columns that were written out there, I remember one column, and it started, and I don't remember the columnist's angle or what his name was, but it was, I know people at BYU that, and I know people at Utah who are devout Mormons. And it started that way. And then, the article deteriorated from there. But people don't want to talk about it, but it's partly biblical. It's partly theology, it's part belief system. There's so much there separating those two, and the stereotypes are not accurate because you can probably, as I mentioned, you can find both either way, but it's very interesting to go back and look, particularly for us Southerners who do think that football only is played here. The type we have, that nobody else orders shoulder pads,
So let's kind of bring it back home to the SEC. What is going on, Bill, at Texas A&M? They had an abundance of quarterbacks, 5- and 4-star quarterbacks just a few days ago, and now they lose Kyler Murray off the heels of losing Kyle Allen, who I thought was the future of the program. I had heard so much about Kyler Murray and the dual threat ability that he has, but I was really impressed with Allen down the stretch, winning a bowl game, playing really well as a freshman, getting thrown into the fire after Kenny Hill got demoted, and all of a sudden they've got defections all over the place.
It's a big mess, and I think we all fell into the trap the last 2 years. Not this year, but a year ago. Kenny Hill starts the season. They blast South Carolina, and us folks with Heisman Trophy votes probably would have turned in our Kenny Hill vote, a year ago, September 12th or something, and that deteriorated. He's now at TCU. Kyle Allen has bailed, and as you mentioned, Kyler Murray on Thursday officially bailed. What's interesting is quarterbacks have always transferred. Disgruntled, not getting to play quarterbacks have always transferred. More nowadays because they know depth charts, they have social media, and they keep up with recruiting. So it's more so an issue than it used to be, and it was an issue. I can take you back to 1994, Brandon Stewart and Peyton Manning. I can take you way back even before that. It's always happened. But this is the first time I've ever seen two sitting starting quarterbacks, Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray, transfer not wanting the starting job. Hey, you're the starter. No, I don't want it. You can have it. I'm out of here. They've underachieved offensively. I tried to tell everybody that the Johnny Chavis and Will Muschamp hires as defensive coordinators at Auburn and A&M would not be this great moment of defensive prowess. It's a big mess, and I think that this time next year we could very well be talking about a new coach at A&M.
Hey, Bill, I love to compare the conferences, and I was the last one to be on board with the SEC definitely being the best conference. So let me explain myself. I thought it was the best conference in 05, 06, 07, something in that range, but until I had to see it over and over and see the games played and not just look at the national championship game, look at the data across the board. Okay, I don't think there's any question over the last 6 or 7 years it was the SEC. Right now, I think it's wide open. I think that the SEC probably is the best. They will certainly turn out the most NFL draft picks, but I love to look at the games, and we don't have enough non-conference power games to go by in the first 3 weeks of the season, so I love to look at the bowl games. And so how much do you really take into account the bowl games when measuring these conferences, and do you think it's enough to look at?
First of all, bowl games as measuring a season or as measuring the next year is a very dangerous proposition. I can give you some strange examples, but did you watch Tennessee and Iowa in the bowl game a year ago?
Did.
Iowa shouldn't have taken that trip. That's how miserable that total game was. And most people would have taken that game and said, boy, Iowa next year's probably 7-5. And Kirk Ferentz, you know, that old guy who makes too much money, he'll definitely be 12-0 season, got all the way to Michigan State. Oklahoma, let me give you some more data. Oklahoma in 1999, when they won the national championship under Bob Stoops, his second year there, lost the bowl game the previous year to Ole Miss. Okay, so there's examples of that. So I'm very careful. I usually look at bowl games as standalone events. And frankly, the other catch about bowl games is you have to figure out who wants to be there and who doesn't. And we all know there are some players and some teams that don't want to be there. We find out after the game when they don't participate. But here's my deal. I'm with you on the SEC right now. It's not the best league. Now, it might all be the best league, but it's not clearly the best league. And it's all because the SEC East is down miserably. Tennessee's chipping the way back, but they've been a down bad program. Here over the last previous, 5 years, is basically the worst 5-year run in Tennessee football history. Florida has been down because they haven't been able to field an offense. This year, they won 10 games, and I like what's going on under McElwain, but they're still building. They've been until this moment with their double-digit win season. Georgia has been a classic underachiever. Kentucky's in the tank. I don't even think Stoops is going to survive. Vanderbilt got better defensively. They don't have an offense at all. Missouri's about to have a long down, prolonged period, okay? So it's basically the SEC East that's weighing down the big picture.
This is my disclaimer on the bowl games, though, Bill, is that if you look at the SEC, we'll take them for an example. The best win that the SEC had off the top of my head in non-conference play was probably Alabama beat Wisconsin. I'm thinking that was the best team that an SEC team beat out of conference. I can't come up with another one. LSU played Syracuse, Texas A&M played an Arizona State team that we thought were going to be good. We could go down the lineup. Florida lost the Florida State game. South Carolina, of course, lost to Clemson. So that's the best game performance win that we have for the SEC. But now we get into bowl play, and out of the 10 teams that made it from the SEC, they're going to play like-seeded teams in other conferences. So at least it's a measuring stick on an even playing ground, because even the Alabama-Wisconsin game, you're taking the 1 seed in the SEC versus like the 6 seed in the Big Ten. So that's not even a fair comparison.
No, I think you can use it as part of the data. A lot of people, though, you follow this and you're on social media. A lot of people take the bowl season and use that as the definitive separator as to who's good and who's not, or who ended up the best. And you know it's a complex mathematical formula. Oh, but you left out the Tennessee over Bowling Green game.
I did fail to include that one as well.
I'm kidding with you.
I'm sure there's some Vandy wins out there that we didn't address that we could really just talk for hours about.
Yeah, no doubt.
So definitely, we've got Bill King on the line. He's all over the place on social media and also has a number of shows out there. So just go to Twitter, look up Bill is King. Bill King. Bill is King. That's his Twitter handle. And check him out right there. And hopefully, Bill, we can track you down sometime and talk some more college football.
Mark, my first time at this was fun, my man. I appreciate the invite very much.
Good stuff. We'll catch you later, and have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.